Hello everybody, welcome, and on behalf of the Emcc Global, can I say thank you for coming, and really welcome to Claire as well, who's going to be leading a fantastic session on Leader as Coach. So without further ado, I'm going to hand you straight over to Claire.
Thank you, Nicola. Thanks EMCC for inviting me to deliver this session. For me, team coaching's close to my heart, and I'm also a supervisor of team coaches. And team coaching, you know, has just grown exponentially over the last few years. I was listening to David Clutterbuck the other day, and you know, the amount of team coaches in the world needs to be timed with a few zeros on the end for the complex adaptive systems that our workplaces are these days, and more complexity in the future, or the horizon's coming closer, and the more prepared we are to be able to coach teams, the better it is for us, for the teams, for the organizations, and the whole system. So I have slides, and I will be jumping in the slides and out of the slides throughout the session. Team leader as coach, or some people say leader as team coach. So I want you to imagine that this really is us taking off into a new place where team leader as coach is the new normal. So strap yourself in, hold on to your hats, and
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And we're off. So just close your eyes for a second and imagine in the future, the organizations we're in, working with, the NGOs, the governments. Imagine all leaders not only have the core coaching competencies in their leadership toolbox, but they also coach their teams with skills, knowledge, and behaviors to enable them to coach their teams. And just think of a few words, a few pictures, images. Think cognitively, think emotionally what that will be like. And then somatically, what are you experiencing in your body when team coaching is the norm and every leader's team coaching? So I invite you to speak out. What's come up for you around that?
Do you think it's a step too far, Claire? Do you think that we're ready for it?
What do you think, Nicola? In a true coaching style.
I think that I think that a lot of people are stuck in their ways. I think a lot of people are stuck with what was. I think that a lot of people are probably looking at other people to see what they're doing before they do something different.
So for me, I think it's once people have experienced it, and usually it happens with an external team coach where the experience can take place, then that allows us to realize what fabulous benefits it has. And then it can work as a ripple. I see this as 3 to 5 years, and obviously for some sectors and some organizations, it may even be a much longer process. However, imagine if team coaching competencies were embedded right from the get-go on the way we do things around here in onboarding, in the organizational values, in job descriptions, person specifications. If they were measured in performance management, then all of that picture together gives it more kudos. And it's getting the buy-in and ownership up there in terms of it's almost like a PR selling piece. We know the benefits and there's research behind it to prove it. And here's case studies from different organizations that do it, and they're doing well. Therefore, let's get it in all the paperwork, just to polish it off in terms of the way we do things around here, as Jim Collins said. Anyone else wish to share? Thank you, Paul. So that bit, Paul, the talent development role, etc. I've got a few slides on that. So I will bring those into the conversation, and I've got models. Anyone else?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not putting my hand up. This is Renee. I worked in an organization, no names mentioned, many years back, where every single manager attended a 4-day introduction to coaching course. It was integral coaching, so quite in-depth on the models. And we were expected to perform as coaches. It was just the norm. And in all honesty, there were some of us that took to it like ducks to water or fish to water. I'm now a professional coach, about 10 of us in an organization that was about 2,000 people big. But there were people that just couldn't. They weren't made to be coaches. They were made to be managers, to give instructions, to tell, to teach. They were more natural at doing that. And when it came to coaching and being curious and being more inquiring, they just really, really struggled. So, you know, just like not everybody can be a teacher or not everybody's going to be a great mentor, leader is coach. Not every leader is going to be a coach, you know, a good coach. Some might just be really mediocre and some might be really bad at it. And I think we've got to be cognizant of that when we talk and we sell leader as coach in organizations.
I agree. And so many organizations, the Googles, the PepsiCos, I mean, PepsiCo do a really long program, a lot longer than 4 days in terms of enabling their leaders and managers to step up in coaching competencies. So the other thing that comes to my mind there is, I get you completely. And what does X organization really need from its leaders and managers to lead their teams? And if team coaching is something that the organization needs, then that also impacts succession planning and hiring, and therefore it becomes systemic in the whole organization. Anyone else, any thoughts on that or anything that's come up so far?
I see Nadia's put in the chat just a response to Paul as well. Where do we build on from the trendy wave of coaching in organisations we've seen in the past decade? She says there's been varying degrees of success.
I hate the word trendy as well. It's over, you know, trend. Personally, I feel, yes, there has been a woo, you know, sparks and fireworks type of trend. And I don't think it will go away. In organizations, I feel we need even more of it instead of less. So some of the other things I was thinking when you were speaking as well, Renee, with things like, so the title of this session, you know, leader as team coach. However, a brilliant place for a team to be is actually shared leadership in the team. So it may not be the leader with title that's coaching the team. So there's another way that, you know, another team member can coach the team, which is a fabulous way of doing it as well, because that allows the team leader to be, you know, sat down or online in the same place as the other team members. Because what we don't want when leader is team coach is, I'm the leader, there's one hat, I'm the team coach and you're here, you know, in terms of power relations. So an ideal for me, and, you know, it's doing ourselves out of a job, is to coach a team, to enable them to have the coaching competencies to be able to coach their self in the future, including the team leader and all the team members in that. And then, you know, the team coaching project exits and it's sustainable. The other thing in that is also what I see as one way of best practice where there's co-delivery. So there's two coaches coaching together. And it doesn't have to be hierarchical. It can be two people in that team. And pure co-coaching is not turn-taking. It's blending together, and one may lead and then the other steps in. It's literally saying, hey, let's not go there right now. Let's go here, because one co-deliverer feels, looking at the whole room, you know, the energy in the whole room, as opposed to one individual, this needs longer. And so co-delivery allows for hard focus and also a focus on the whole team as well. And the skills of co-delivery, we need more programs on that. And imagine that in organizations where then both coaches learn from each other and they can supervise each other in part, or working with a supervisor, leaning into that relationship. What are you learning about yourself? What are you learning about the relationship? And then the wide angle lens, what are you learning about the team from this co-delivery in terms of process and many other things? And then even further, who are you being as a co-deliverer of team coaching for the team that you're in, and what's the impact for stakeholders of this work taking place? I'm saying this word not to be arrogant, just it's an opinion. Real team coaching, obviously, is not just team building. It's a project, it's long-term, and ideally, all the individuals in the team are coached as well, whether that be by the team leader or the peer, or what, obviously when it's an external coach or a team coach working in the organization, coached by the team coach as well. So that's a sort of platinum model. And something that gets missed sometimes is before the team coaching takes place, using diagnostics, team level profiles, and there's only about 5 around, team level profiles in terms of impact and performance, skills, knowledge, behaviors, the way the team reflects and catches the learning so they can use it in the future. All of that, and the results, obviously, all of that can help to plan the team coaching roadmap. So that's one thing. And the other thing at the start is to chat, some people call it interview, to chat with every team member to check their fully understanding why team coaching, why now, what's the benefits for me, what's the benefits for the team and beyond. And that conversation can really help gauge, is this team ready for team coaching? I'm working also on there's a few around, I'm working on simple diagnostic in terms of team coach readiness, because the organization I'm working internally with at the moment, Qatar Foundation, has over 3,000 staff. It's got a number of different organizations, it's complex, and how to decide which team would benefit the most, why that team, why now. So those simple diagnostics can help in terms of which leaders need to be trained in team coaching competencies. Where are the biggest pressure points in the system? And Sophie has said there, in terms of being the formal title team leader and also the team coach. So what I know is that, and we all know it as coaches, ABC, always be contracting and really clear. I've now got my team coach hat on, and a team coach partners with the whole team. a team coach is here, a team coach isn't here. And it can be a shift for the team, and it can also be a shift for the team leader to really consciously, it's almost like, you know, supervising some team leaders who are coaching their teams. If there's a way that they can metaphorically or physically step into the cloak of leader as team coach, that can help them to ground themselves in terms of the way of working with the team in that particular role. We're looking at quite a few different areas today. Just briefly, because it's sometimes with big numbers hard to gauge, difference between team and group. We talked about systemic coaching already with that wide angle lens beyond the team, looking outside in. What do we need to do to serve our stakeholders, internal and external, even better? And then we'll talk about the competencies and real team or group. That's an interesting one in itself. A lot of teams call themselves a team, but they're working as a group. And then some emerging trends. I can share case studies of team coaching, and also where leaders have then moved into coaching their teams. And we'll do a little bit of play, which is a supervision activity. So I'm also really curious, and do speak out or put in the chat. And Nicola's fabulous at looking at the chat, because it's difficult, you know, when you've got the slides on. So are you a one-on-one coach? Curious about team coaching? Are you a team coach now? Are you a team leader? Are you all the above, or are you something different? Let's see who we've got here today. Claire, speak out.
Hi, Claire. I'm a one-on-one coach, but I'm also a team leader, and I work in a consultancy firm. So we often have blended teams as with the client as well. So I'm kind of really curious around sort of how to meld those sort of different roles all together, and how to get the best of not only my project team, but also the wider team, if that makes sense, because we're sort of working on a delivery partnership model. So we don't do the work for the client, we work alongside them. So I'm really interested in this space.
So I absolutely love that, because these are the types of cases. I almost want to say, Claire, journal, keep journaling, because these are the brilliant, unique cases that we're going to get more and more of, in terms of, yes, you've now got the coaching competencies, and yet it is, personally, I feel one-on-one coaching competencies being polished and then moving to team coaching is a good way. It's not obviously the only way. And then coaching the team as well as coaching the clients together. That is just beautiful, because I mean, that is that's systemic team coaching given to you on a plate. Because there's many teams who try and hear the voices of the system, be it their clients or suppliers, etc. And they they can struggle to actually get that data. So the fact you've got them with you, and it's keeping all the voices equal for the sake of the purpose of the team, aligned to what the customers need. Keep in touch. Let me know how it goes. Anyone else? What have we got in the chat, Nicola?
We've got a lot of one-on-one coaches, actually, but also one-to-one coaches starting to look at team coaching as well. One-to-one and team, a blend as well. Also a coach and a team leader.
Brilliant.
So, and always a cut definition of I either am a coach or I either am a leader. There's some really, really great blends in here as well. Apologies if I get this pronunciation wrong, but Quen Ji Chin, he says one-to-one coach and a team leader. Quen, are you there? Do you want to come in and see what it's like for you?
Yeah, hi. You can call me Gigi here. So basically, I wear multiple hats. I work in an organization where I manage the operations of the company, and I'm also doing internal coaching, people who are not reporting to me. but that's more of a one-on-one coaching. But at the same time, I'm also doing external executive coaching for other clients on my own. So that's where the different roles comes in when I put it to the chat, whereby I'm a team leader, but at the same time, I'm also an executive coach myself.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
And
so I think sorry,
okay.
I was just saying that I think the challenge for me, it's more of because of the multiple hats that I wear. So when it comes to, for example, if I'm going to look into team coaching next, because now the internal coaching that I'm doing is a one-on-one type of coaching. So if I'm going to move into team coaching and at the same time still wearing that team leader hat, but not on people that are reporting to me, how would that look like, and what are some of the things that I need to take note of? I guess that's where I would like to know more.
I love that. So we did a project a few years ago with Bahrain Islamic Bank, and initially it was part of a leadership development program, and coaching was in that. So they got coaching and they also developed coaching competencies. And after that, we stayed with them because they were also moving towards embedding a coaching culture. And one thing that worked extremely well, which is just perfect, and it's something that sometimes organizations forget. So this branch bank manager here coaches this procurement team over here. Now, what's fabulous about that is the fact that it reduces silos, it shares knowledge. You're not team coaching your team. You're team coaching a different team. So the team leader of that team is fully part of the team in the team coaching. For me, that's something that organizations need more of. And you've alluded to that, Kunli, in your conversation there. One thing that I did my systemic team coaching diploma with AOEC, Peter Hawkins was in there, and it's John Leary Joyce's program, you know, great, fab people. And the shift for me, I was doing team coaching, and it's almost like not properly, but properly is a big thing, you know. And the shift for me was leaning into sharing even more and using self as instrument. So I did it in one-on-one, but being vulnerable when coaching a team is another level because there's even more people in the room. And, you know, research shows that when team leaders do share and are vulnerable, that is actually the whole team leaning in. So it can help with team dynamics.
So Richard says, since there are so many one-on-one coaches wanting to get to team coaching, are you able to address the significant competencies that are required to get success in team coaching?
Sure.
Actually, I'm thinking about that as well. I'm going to get the Emcc team coaching competencies. Well. Yeah.
Yes. And there's work also on team coach supervision competencies backstage happening at the moment. So Emcc team coaching competencies, we've also developed our own as well. I absolutely love the Emcc ones, and I did ours as a way for team coaches to literally highlight and do a self-assessment of the things of, it's in the slides, so you'll get it afterwards. Where are you right now? Where do you need to be? And then there's that, you know, what will get me there? Is it more skills? Is it more knowledge? There's a feeling that more business acumen is needed if you've not been coaching in organizations, for example. And then also behavior. So one thing that I found extremely useful coaching my team and also coaching team coaching in organizations was this model by Nick Smith and Peter Hawkins, the API model, and it's about authority, presence, and impact. Now, whether you are an internal or external team coach, or you're a leader as team coach, or an aspiring leader as team coach, there's partly a sharing of your authority. So your capabilities, your competencies, your achievements, and that's us, it's not arrogance, it's sitting up straight and saying, and being, I am here and I'm with you to learn even more together. And then the presence piece is coaching presence, the way we're doing things, and the balance of shared leadership in the team, whilst also being compassionate, wide-angled empathy, whilst also appropriately stepping into fierce courage and challenging the team and challenging yourself as well. And then the third one, impact. So what needs to shift to enable the team to achieve what they need to for their purpose? So conversations around team purpose, are we a team, are we a group, all these types of things. And I've got some examples of things you can do a little bit later. All of this leads into your confidence when team coaching. So that's often a useful model. So I'm not going through my qualifications and experience here. I just want to share that, oh, it's interesting I use the word just as well. I will share that a few years back, when going for big, Fortune 100 team coaching projects, there was a little bit of me that was like, oh, should I share this? Should I put the qualifications in terms of, yes, I am at this level? And going through the team coaching diploma allowed me to step into my authority even more. Now, what's the impact of that? Confidence. And that impacts the team and the organization. So, put together what you've got in terms of authority, presence, and impact. And that can help you as well with your confidence if team coaching and coaching your team is new to you. So just briefly, a group is a number of people who may be working on the same topic, the same issue, the same problem. Group coaching in organizations, fabulous, in terms of what way can leaders get together to find ways to work even better with their teams, or what way do you do performance management coaching conversations so people can learn from each other? But a team being different, a team has a common purpose, they work together, usually under 10, and it's about impact and performance for the sake of what is needed in the system. And there's so many references and research, this is quite recent, as you can see, supporting the argument for leader or manager as coach and as team coach. So when selling this in organizations, if you are a leader, by getting these pieces together, and socializing the rationale behind it, that can help get buy-in. And the more buy-in we have from the top, obviously, the more flow. Quite often, to get on board an executive sponsor, that can support the budget for the training for people to step even further into team coaching. And I really advocate, and I know Emcc does, leader as team coach, supervision cannot be underestimated, because it's even more complex than one-on-one coaching. And then there's different stages of, we've got team facilitation, and skills in that by working with the whole room and everyone's quirkiness and their uniqueness. That's different again, a step up from the one-on-one coaching. And then there's coaching on just performance. And then leadership team coaching. So coaching up there at the top. And I'd also bring into this coaching for the team leader on their coaching of their team. Their coaching of their team individually, but also as a team. And then moving into transformational, you know, where do we need to be and what ways can we get there? And then moving to systemic and even complex adaptive in terms of what do they need us to focus on as a team, and what ways can this team coaching support that? So that's what I call real team coaching, where it really is bringing in the whole team, but the voices from beyond as well. I came up with this acronym, do with it what you wish. It was me just, sometimes I conceptualize things by using acrostics. It's a bit of fun, few things on there to think about, you know, be clear on your view of what team coaching is and is not. Have conversations with the team about the way they not necessarily want, but need to be coached as a team together. Have they experienced that previously? And then in terms of, well, we say return on investment, I'd also bring in return on expectations. And by coaching this team as the leader, what do we as a team expect to achieve, expect to experience over a certain time scale? What ways do we expect to be working more effectively together and more on purpose? What ways, and we know the way the world is now, what ways will the team coaching support us doing more in less time with less resources? All of that in itself, you know, and dispersed teams. For so many, it's not a new thing, but dispersed teams, there's even more people going to be staying in that working from home. You know, EY and others are embracing it, for example. And of course, with Miro and other tools, team coaching online is, Lego have been doing it for years. I've done some projects with Lego in terms of also using a team profile to assess the needs of teams, and then internal coaches, team coaches there are working with them. So there's also that thing of when we're a team leader, we've got to be aware of including the whole team, because if we've got a team leader and our, you know, our right-hand person, quite often we can be metaphorically or physically looking to them, and others can get missed out. So what ways as a leader, as a team leader, as coach, are you ensuring that the whole team is given voice? So things like Nancy Klein's, you know, thinking environment, appreciative inquiry, all of this work really supports that. And where are teams in terms of tapping into somatic coaching and embodiment? You know, and for some it's like, oh, let's just do a bit of team coaching first and then we'll go there. And yet actually, that's where the amazing work happens. Even bringing in existentialism. Why are we a team? And if we worked as a group instead, what would that bring to the collective purpose? So lots of different approaches, just as well in terms of, hey, we're doing this great as a team, exaggerating it in that moment to see even more of that, what will that bring to our relationships? What will that bring to our processes and systems, etc.? So there's so many amazing different ways of coaching that can be blended into team coaching projects. I won't dwell on this, apart from saying, you know, vulnerability we've talked about already, and we need team leader as coach to be comfortable with being vulnerable, which is a bit of a paradox, because team coaching is exciting and challenging and scary and fun and impactful, and being vulnerable with not knowing or not knowing where to go right there in that session and throwing it back to the team. Hey, where do we need to go now? That vulnerability actually adds to the team coaching. And just some research, you know, for when you're selling your team coaching projects, only 1 in 5 teams is high performing. I want a more recent research example of that. And it's not just about performance, it's about the value that the team is creating. Impact is an important word to keep front and center. We've mentioned about the systemic focus, and I'll take the slides off after this. So this is work from Peter Senge and others that I've combined together. So we've got us as an individual, as a team leader, and we've got all of our stuff that we bring to this in terms of the way that we were brought up, culture, many different things. And then the communities we're with and the way we are interpersonally. Team coaching, we know, you know, women on boards and many other things. Drawing on diversity really supports innovation and creativity. So team coaching just makes perfect sense because we hear more views and opinions and we can challenge each other. You know, it all goes for me with the design thinking process as well. And I trained also as an Agile certified coach, and the ICF team coaching competencies, they blend well with that type of working iteratively. And, you know, the values of the Agile manifesto are not explicitly, but are certainly in there in the team coaching competencies. Knowing the history of the team, the ghosts in the system, those that have left the team and yet are still present in some way. And then moving to which sector is this team working in and what's going on out there. So an example here is HR teams. A lot of HR teams are going through absolute energy drops at the moment because COVID has continued potentially a lot longer than people thought. So in that respect, when is the end? And we keep having to get our energy back. So if just one supervision the other day of a team coach, and it, you know, the data on that team was they're not performing at their best. And things need to shift for them to be at their best. And yet, some of them are suffering from burnout. So framing the actual data from the 360 in terms of, hey, you are not alone in this field of HR globally. So many teams are experiencing the same as you. And that field awareness can really help a team. So it's not okay that the team is underperforming. However, it is okay. We're not alone. We will lean in and work together. And it's happening in other sectors and out there. So there's a number of other things going all the way to the higher purpose of the team. Why is this team on this planet right now? How come our paths have crossed? and we are the members of this team in this moment. That taps into existentialism as well. So I'll stop the slides there and let's see what's come up for you whilst I've been sharing those slides. Any comments, questions? Speak out.
I see there's a lot of moving parts. Mario, Di and Paul have all spoken about this. Paul's worked in the NHS for a number of years. Teams reorganise. It's not down to anybody's gift. There's a lot of fluidity there. And Mario makes the point as well that team coaches need to continue to adapt to the dynamics. Something that Di says as well. Organisations have fluid, temporary, and constantly reorganising teams. It says to me that there's quite a lot of moving parts. I didn't know if any of you three would like to come in on any of that.
Basically, the point I'm making is coming a bit from experience in team coaching lately. I've been coaching this team, and the agendas within the team continue to change, and also the way that the perceived interaction or collaboration with other teams within the organization is changing. And the fluctuation in terms of my approach to this team has been in terms of the level of support that I've been giving both the CEO of the organization and the team itself. And there has been a realization perhaps that even personal agendas are no longer aligned with the organization, leading to even more change. And therefore the need to continue focusing, so to speak, on what really needs to be achieved this time at the organizational level. So there's a continual flux, so to speak, of how to approach this assignment, if you will. It can't be pigeonholed strictly in terms of team coaching, but at one point it becomes coaching the CEO, at another point coaching the whole team, at another point seeing how that team is going to collaborate with the rest of the organization. So even in terms of running diagnostics, like doing the Belbin team roles assessments and DISC assessments for the team to work together, that work becomes a bit, some of it nullified because team members change and you have to start all over again. So it has to be very dynamic.
Absolutely, thank you. And what way can team leader as coach support the team in terms of constant change of purpose and constant change of people? It's a big one.
In fact, the team coaching assignment or approach was primarily for it is a real team, but I decided early on that the CEO needs to be part of the team coaching process. And because the team leader's agenda has changed and has become suspect, so to speak, then the CEO as the team leader and coaching the CEO as leader has become now a bigger focus than originally it was before. So this is how it is shifting, because at the end of the time, we have to keep in mind that although we are coaching a team, that team is made up of individuals who have their own, their own foibles, their own agendas, and these can create significant challenges when trying to push or to pull the team forward. So in this case, for example, the focus of coaching the team leader as coach has changed from the actual team leader to the CEO of the team, as it has become often.
And sometimes having a professional sounding board just to unpack all this can help us do our work at our best as well.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. Di.
Right. So not much to add to that really, other than to say that my experience is increasingly that there aren't teams in organisations. There are lots of teams. People are members of many teams simultaneously. Teams shift and change all the time. So the team leader becomes, I think to the point that you were making, Claire, becomes the holder of purpose, a particular purpose, at least for the time that they are the holder of that purpose. And what they do is to bring collaborative communities together or collaborative groups together. And so their role as coach is very much around inspiring people around the purpose and helping them to collaborate well for the period of time that they do that. But I think our language about teams is rooted in a slightly more conventional view of a team as having a leader who is also a manager of that team, and it has a kind of line reporting relationship with all the members of the team, which is increasingly unusual in my experience. So I do think that our language about teams and our language about team coaching and our concept about what team coaching is and what the role of the team coach and the role of the team leader are, we just might need to be careful that we don't carry that language over with us and so limit what we're doing.
What I love about that is that you brought in something really interesting. So we know that some leaders are, leader and manager is sometimes used interchangeably, unfortunately, and sometimes leaders are managing. And I see a big distinction between manager as team coach, even if their title's leader, and leader as team coach. And I feel it works better with leader as team coach. That's just my view from my experience. I wonder what anyone else thinks about that. Or is it just semantics?
It's never just semantics.
True. Yeah. That word just.
Claire, sorry.
Yes.
Claire, would you mind explaining what the difference between those two words are for you, just for our own understanding? So when you say leader versus manager as team coach, what do you mean? So what is the leader and what is the manager?
Yeah, sure. So, just in the way that so I just have to put before this as well, my view on leadership: we're all leaders. We're a leader of ourselves, our careers, our families, our communities. I hate that some people feel the title of leader gives them more leadership than others. However, in terms of organizations, leader as they're working at this level in terms of vision, strategy, looking out there. The manager is the one who's enabling the team to get things done. Does that help at all?
I know, absolutely. It's within the context of how you responded to Di there. You said, look, that there's a big distinction between a leader as coach and a manager as coach. So it was just to understand, how do you distinguish between them? Yeah, thank you.
So what I've noticed is when someone, despite the title, is being manager as team coach, they tend to have a focus on the process and the way the team are working together to achieve their objectives. Whereas a leader as team coach tends to look bigger and at all the different facets that team coaching should include. And I'm not sure if there's any writing about that distinction, but I am, Laura, going to look that up.
Very helpful. Yeah. I think it's very helpful for for managers and leaders to understand the distinction for themselves, so that they too can, create awareness around it and an understanding of what hat they're putting on too. So we often talk about facilitating managers to be better coaches, but when their objective is performance related like that, you can see how they find that role then difficult to adopt. So it's just something to be mindful of.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And, we can get into habits, and we can get into the habit of coaching our team, but really we're leading or managing them as opposed to doing it with them. Anyone else?
What if we chip in, actually?
Mario.
Oh, sorry, go on.
Well, you know, usually it's put simplistically as leaders do the right thing and managers do things right. And obviously, you know, I look at them as two sides of the same coin, really. You can't be an effective leader, you can't manage efficiently, and likewise, you can't manage efficiently, you don't know where you're going. So to me, the distinction in coaching is also, as perhaps you have indicated, that a manager as coach is coaching more in terms of the efficiency of the team, whereas if you're coaching as a leader, then you are coaching more in terms of the direction, the strategy, the values of that team moving forward. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's how I...
Yeah, and bringing the team on. Yeah. So what I will share with Nicola afterwards, I tend to use Savile Consulting Wave's suite of profiles. So like Belbin, Mario, they have one that it used to be called team roles and they've changed it to work roles. However, the reason that I've used them for many years is because a lot of my work's been across the Middle East, and they've got them in Arabic where you can actually do it in Arabic and get the report in Arabic. So I'll share there's Leadership Risk and Leadership Impact Report 360, which I often do with team leaders, and it relates to this conversation around team leader as coach. So you can see there a team leader or director, even C-suite competencies. The other one is, it's called the Performance 360, and that's more manager level competencies. So I'll share those later. Laura, that might be interesting, you know, to look at those two profiles in terms of the competencies. And then I've looked at them in terms of, okay, we've got this leader and manager, and what's the implication for them coaching their teams? The other one I can share as well is the TAP 360, the team advanced profile. And instead of, you know, what type of team player are you, like Belbin, this is a team level report where the exec sponsor or other stakeholders, the team leader who is identifiable, the team as a whole, and then other stakeholders actually input data on the team. And this is the one, there's only 4 or 5 of them that I'm aware of. And by having that picture, it's also really interesting to see, and how does the team leader rate the team on X compared to how the team rate themselves on X? And then how does the, you know, the team leaders manager rate them as well? So yeah, really, really interesting data. I've mapped that to the CoachME model, which I use with teams. And so the model can be used in team coaching as well. And the data makes sense because it addresses different parts of the model. I mean, even the way we do it is feeding back that team level data, first of all, to the team leader. And then they, if they're the team leader as coach, they feed it back to the team, sometimes choosing bits to share, sometimes sharing the whole thing. However it's done, it needs a really good chunk of time, at least 3 hours, and breaking it up is a good way to do it as well, so it's not overwhelming. When I've done it face to face, pin bits around the room and put people in 2s or 3s, you know, for psychological safety, and then they share back to the bigger group. You can do it on Miro by breaking it up and people going to breakout rooms, because otherwise the data can be overwhelming. And it includes narrative data as well as the actual ratings or rankings. And it's always amazing conversations around that. And yes, we've got the data, the conversations and the coaching is the most important bit from that. Anyone, anything else? Mario?
Claire, in sharing this data, especially where it is the last one you mentioned, I think team adaptive profile. I'm not sure what you called it, but where everybody's putting in the data. Are the results shared anonymously, or would everybody know what each member has scored on that?
Okay, so we looked at many different ways of doing this, and the executive sponsor or the team leader's leader, unless they are, you know, it's a board, are identifiable. And the team leader's data is identifiable, not only their ratings, but also their narrative. However, there was one team who the team leader, because they were pretty new to the team, they'd only been there 3 months, they really wanted to be in the data with the team. So it just left a blank line where it said team leader, and their data was in the rest of the team. Really interestingly, when they got the data back, they and the team wanted that extracting. So it was just a little bit of jigging, IT, not my thing, so that the team leader's data did become identifiable after all. So, you know, that was, we always try and sell with a compelling rationale why the team leader should be identifiable. It's brilliant development for them as well, you know, because their strengths and development areas as a team leader are showing in the data. And then the others, it may be a group of stakeholders, which could be regulators, suppliers, you know, even government officials where relevant, and they can be together or they can be split up as different stakeholders. Obviously, you know, the ideal is to have 3 or more so that people are not identifiable. And then in the narrative, sometimes people may be, you know, English second language and they write in a certain style. So I tend to share as well in the narrative, just be conscious of the way you're writing in case you don't want to be identifiable. And we've even had reports where some's in English, some's in Arabic, and then we translate the whole thing over here. Any more questions?
Claire, can I just bring up, and it came up a little bit earlier, about the length of time that you team and how we team, and in looking at the teaming continuum, you know, so we might invest a lot of time, resources, feedback structures, but it's maybe incorrectly, but I'm getting a perception that teams have shorter lifespans. What are you saying? You know, is part of it how we team and how we are able to team and pivot and team with the next one and team with the next one, as opposed to creating these constructs of teams that stay together for a long time. Be interested to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Clodagh, I think it's that realization that teams are fluid. And team leader as coach, part of that role is, you know, just like with Gestalt, things keep closing and opening. That's the way teams are now. You know, sadly, so many teams over the last year have had redundancies, and the team has to carry on. And then you've got different, again, project teams brought together with skill sets for certain purposes, which tends to be for a period of time, whereas other teams, HR teams, are ongoing and people coming in and out at different phases. It's a sort of how long is a piece of string answer. Don't we all hate that one? If I'm team coaching as an internal or external coach, I won't take on a team coaching project unless they, and of course the team may change, they commit to at least 6 months.
Okay, brilliant. Thanks.
If that helps at all.
Yeah, it does. Perfect. Yeah. Thanks, Claire.
So, emerging trends, there are, as I mentioned before, team coach supervision, but moving into team coach supervision competencies. So supervisors specifically for team coaching as a specialism, AI and chatbots and all these things working with teams, you know, becoming more mainstream. Using landscapes with teams with, oh gosh, the word has just gone, you know, where you put the headset on?
Virtual reality.
Thank you. So teams globally, it's funny the way the brain works, isn't it? Teams globally can be in the same virtual reality landscape, and it's amazing what comes out of this type of thing. And then training leader as team coach as part of leadership developments coming through. Some of the you know, smaller coach training schools do it, we do it, and then some of the top business schools are tapping into, hey, this is a real thing that we need to stay with. Coaching teams through transition. So the team leader's the coach, but now and again an external or internal team coach comes in for different parts to support through certain, you know, when things are tricky or change, etc. Agile team coaching, I know so many Agile coaches who are now training in coaching, as in, you know, the Emcc competencies and so forth, and the other way around, team coaches dipping into the Agile methodology, and then the great fun stuff, drama therapy and psychodynamics in team coaching when they're ready. I wouldn't do any of that necessarily in the first session. And then I mentioned before, so many somatic coaching, gestalt coaching, narrative, all these things can be blended into team coaching. So having it in the leadership toolbox, and also it's supporting the development of the team, empowering the team, aligning the team, and also improving results for these stakeholders. We mentioned manager and leader. We brought that in already. We talked about courage, just trying to see what we haven't mentioned there. Wide angle lens we talked about. And then I alluded to, as a leader, as team coach, it can be extremely exciting, high octane, and there can be points where, oh, where do we go now? You know, there can be someone in the team who's not bought into it, all those types of things. You know, I'd go to one-on-one coaching with that person if they really are resisting, or sadly narcissistic sometimes can even be in there. So what I thought we could do, Nicola, is breakout rooms just for 5 minutes and just have a generative, absolute, you know, brainstorm around benefits of team leader as team coach in organizations, and potentially some of the challenges, and just see what comes up from that. So anyone like to, what you've come up with in the breakout rooms in terms of challenges and also benefits of team leaders?
Amy's just saying that she and Asma had a great discussion around trust and relationships.
And it's interesting, when team leader is coach, relationships that are a little bit tricky, it can go deeper and then end up, hey, we get to the sunshine really quickly. Of course, it needs to be long, you know, it's an ongoing process, but team coaching allows for that dialogue to take place.
Do you know, that trust aspect really resonates with me, and going back to some points that were made earlier on in the session as well, about whether you can be within the team and also coaching the team. And therefore, are your teammates looking to you as a colleague, or are they looking to you as a coach? And how much can they trust you with their vulnerability? in a way that perhaps they couldn't trust you with their vulnerability if you were their leader, especially if somebody you wanted to maybe impress, or you wanted to, you know, look good in front of, or felt you needed to prove yourself in front of, then maybe bringing your own vulnerabilities might be an issue from a trust point of view. What do you think?
I would agree with Nicola over there.
And it goes back to the contracting again.
Yeah. Sorry, can I continue?
We were just discussing in our group that it might very often have to do with the acceptance of the team leader in the position of a coach. And, you know, some of the things that come into the come into consideration, and if the team leader is responsible for the performance assessment of the individual team members. So there, you know, the things that you mentioned, I think, Nicola, become very relevant, because then you're trying to constantly show that you are delivering, you know, those results, and you might not want to necessarily confide if there's something, you know, that you would probably not do in that scenario.
It's really interesting as well, because you know, organizations, financial sector, for example, you know, where there's bonuses and there can be competition within the team because of that. So one thing that can help with that is also, and Kunal, it's what you've been saying as well there, if there's team level objectives, that can help. Obviously, as well as individual objectives, but that can draw people together and it can reduce the competition. Mario.
I think, you know, in our breakouts, when we're talking about the need for psychological safety within the team to be able to do all this, and also, I think there is, you know, perhaps a realization here that you cannot have the team leader as coach unless the team leader's leadership style is conducive to that. And, you know, so you have to be either, you know, adapting a transformational leadership style or a servant leadership style to be able to practice coaching as a team leader. And I think this is essential. Otherwise, you know, you can't have an autocratic leader being a coach, in my opinion, at least.
Yeah, unless they're extremely flexible to be democratic when they're with that other hat on. Yeah, it doesn't really usually work that way. I do like the stepping up of other people to do some of the team coaching, other team members. And it can make a leader realize that they really are so autocratic or micromanaging.
Well, I don't think that in practice, an autocratic team leader will allow space for anybody within that team to be a coach, in my experience. So, you know, there needs to be a mindset change on the part of the leader to be able to do that.
And yet, if it's in job descriptions and it's measured, then they've got to shift. And, you know, it's that whoever said it, you know, if we measure it, we're more likely to get it. That wasn't their exact words, but yeah, so that can help. So a few other things here, ways of working together. This is the alliance. And as soon as someone new comes into the team, the alliance needs to be recreated because of the shift that's taken place. I mean, that's just a few things in the alliance. I advise leader as team coach, at least 2 hours on the alliance, and bring it into every session as well to keep the contracting alive. And then we need to pitch team coaching. It was mentioned a few minutes ago, not only to the team, there was something in the chat there, not only to the team, but also if we as leader as team coach are coaching other teams, What do you need to hear to know that that team is ready for team coaching? In the very initial conversations, what do you need them to share? What do you need them to experience during the team coaching? Just to share, my internet came up as a little bit unstable there, so I don't know if I went off. This is a massive thing for leader as team coach or any team coach. Capturing the learning from the team coaching sessions and then using that learning back in business as usual and using it in future projects that are brand new to the team. That is so important. And the other thing with business as usual, if you're a team coach in an organization coaching another team with their leader part of the team, then the learning becomes across the organization. But also you can observe business as usual sessions, meetings with the team. And then John Leary Joyce talks about TOOTS, time out of time, and the way that we can feed back the data, what we noticed when we observed that team in their business as usual meeting. And that type of conversation, then we share the data and then we ask a question. So I noticed 2 people in this team, their voices are louder than others. What way does this team work together in terms of communication and supporting everyone's voices being heard? And then it goes to them, and it can, that can be a massive conversation. Team coaching culture developing all the way from, usually, as we know, it tends to be an external coach initially, and then developing coaching capacity, moving all the way into 5 there, embedding it in HR and performance management. It's the way we do things, number 6. And then again, the external stakeholders are aware of us being a coaching organization. And then when coaching is top down, bottom up, and across the middle, then that really embeds it. And things like whether it's coaching ambassadors or whatever word you want to use in terms of the ones that are coaching, that can help, that's the foundations, the bedrock of a coaching culture, with leader as team coach being one part of it. And you chatted in your chat rooms about the benefits of leader of team coach, and these are some of them as well. It took a while to come up with all the C's. Anything in the chat, Nicola?
I think in that last bit, you've probably covered everything there. Paul was asking whether organisations need to allow teams to sponsor their own team leader to more quickly support their leader. But do you know what, because I've just noticed the time as well, whether that's something which we could take into the networking, just to see if there's anybody that could like to expand on that, or to
sure, yeah, and we can open it up, absolutely. So I will go quick now. You will get the slides. Some team coaching exercises, stakeholder mapping, team coaching projects, they're always changing, always evolving. Sometimes you need to do that a number of times during team coaching, as is to be. I did this once with a senior leadership team as an icebreaker. 2 hours later, we were still there. It was unbelievable. But this team, I mean, trying to get them together, I'm doing this now, trying to get them together was literally a headache, because once I had a legal, I'm off to New York tomorrow to see the World Bank. So my team coaching had to cease, obviously, until, they wanted face-to-face. 2 flip charts are on Miro. It's amazing what comes up there. And then team purpose, loads of beautiful things, high dream, low dream. What is our purpose as a team? What way do we align to that purpose in all of our work? I use a lot of different things, Lego and picture cards and I'll share these for Nicola to send round. And my role now is an internal service provider to the other organisations. So things like costing, even if you're internal, it is a cost of time and many other things. And I embed supervision into the costing to make sure that I'm working at my best. And then we talked about the different profiles, the type of individuals as team players. That's the TAP 360 and just some of the questions there. Have a think about you and your competencies of a coach. I mentioned the way Agile really resonates with the Emcc competencies. We need to write more about that, Nicola. And then this is the model I use that I created for organizations. It's in over 30 languages now with results focus, but belief, momentum and celebration. What way does this team, with their leader coaching them, celebrate not only the little steps, but the big milestones? Some adaptation of the work from John Leary Joyce on signature presence, some things for you to think about there. I've done too much existential questions on what's your focus as a team coach. And, you know, which of those do you not focus on as much? What would that bring to the teams that you work with? Change comes when we're more of ourselves. If you want a hashtag after this session, there's a little thought in terms of what's your signature presence as a team coach or leader as team coach. We could go fun with that. And then these competencies I'll share around. I wanted to just share this. So this was a team coach who was a leader as coach, having supervision, using cards. Things that came out of this were what's in the spaces and what's in, because it was done on Miro, you can make the pictures smaller and larger. What's over there with the policeman, you know, and things came from that. And then they chose this random word card. We cannot go backwards was the big statement. We need to keep playing and splashing. And so the team needs more light and fun to be able to gel together and co-create. We're on the first step of the ladder. We've got a long way to go. All sorts can come out by using image cards and metaphors. The team leader, I am the scissors. We need to cut some stuff in this team to perform at our best. And time was specifically put in the center because that was seen as one of the most important things. If anyone wants to get in touch about team coaching projects, then happy to chat. And over to you, Nicola.
Wow, Claire, I feel like you've given us a massive gift there with all that information, and thank you. Can I give you an official thank you on behalf of the Emcc Global for this session? It's been really, really important. Thank you. And so we'll share the slides and we'll share the recording in due course too. Just before we move into, we've got just a few minutes we can have for networking as well. If everybody would like to stay for that, that'd be really, really good. I shall mix you up in breakout rooms. It'll be like a cake mixture in a different order, and then I shall mix you all up again. So I'll just put you in 5 minutes every time. But before we go, can I just thank Claire so much for everything that you've shared, and thank you for everybody as well for everything that you've shared in this discussion as well. It's been so amazing. Thank you. Lots of applause.
And thank you, Nicola, as well. You always blend and lead so well.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's a